Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Creative Contact with yours truly, Orion, the man who is obsessed with being the best version of his damn self. I'm still working on my tagline, but I like that. Something about being obsessed, something with self and just improvement, because I'm really out here just on a quest to be better, y'all. That's what it is. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. We're going to talk about we're starting this day off with beautiful moments. We got a pod. I'm going to be talking because, again, I got to be bouncing out of here in maybe 20, 30 minutes, and we got a lot to get through, y'all. One, some beautiful moments. Two, this is my last official week in Malaysia. It has been a rad kind of training camp, focused writing session. I've got almost all the stories in my collection of short stories. Also my MFA sample that I want to talk to you about, what that's kind of looking like. And I've been in my training camp. I want to update you on health, what things are looking like there. My quest to get my six pack back. And then we're also going to talk about what this time in Malaysia taught me. We're also going to talk about what's been on my mind lately, some things that I've been learning about, some evolutionary psychology things that I've been learning about, kind of where I'm at in regards to career, family, marriage, kids, nomad life. You already know what it is. Let's jump into it, baby. Okay, beautiful moments. The first one is going to be just a simple one. The other day, I live on the 15th floor and trying to get my steps in. I've been walking up and down these damn 15 floors every single day, at least twice a day, and I'm ready to not live on the 15th floor anymore. But at the very end of the hall, there is a family, and it has two boys. And sometimes I would walk through the stairwell, and I'd see Pokemon cards. Like sometimes they'd be torn or whatever. And I'd be like, man. And it was crazy to see the Pokemon cards have the backs of them are the exact same Pokemon cards that I bought from Comics for Collectors on the Commons, on the Ithaca Commons when I was growing up. The packs, looking for a holographic Charizard, looking for a Venusaur that I traded to my brother behind Northeast Elementary School for, I don't know, it was like a War Turtle or some shit, and he totally hustled me on that. Still bitter about it. You know, it was crazy to see, and so I went back the other day, I was walking by, going to the stairwell, going to go downstairs, and the boys were outside holding their Pokemon cards, playing with the cards. I don't think they were battling, but they were holding the cards. They both had their own deck of cards, and it was just insane to me. Imagine me and my big bro, same Pokemon cards. Now they have all these fancy trainers and blah, blah, blah. But the same backs of the cards as when we were kids. And it was just crazy to me. One of the kids, they wanted to talk to me, but they didn't know English. And so we just kind of sat in the stairwell and looked at each other. I wanted to be like, enjoy it, gentlemen, because it goes fast. But we just kind of looked at each other, and they gave me a peace sign. I gave them a peace sign, and we kind of laughed, and I moved on. But it was really interesting to kind of see this as a grown man now, like these two brothers playing Pokemon. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like that was just me yesterday, you know, and it's also interesting that the cards haven't changed, that Pokemon is still around. What a fascinating idea and company. That's a business I'd love to learn about, like such a cool company idea. Just that's a whole rant on itself, but the fact that Pokemon is stuck around, there's obviously something really powerful about us and this idea of like having little animals that we battle and stuff like that I just thought was super cute. And just kind of having that moment with the boys, it was like almost like I was reversing in time and seeing me and my brother doing the same thing. So that was pretty cool. Number two is there's this old lady that I'll go on a walk in the evenings. My daily routine is pretty simple right now because I don't really have any friends out here. I've had one Malaysian shorty that I've been kicking it with a little bit, but other than that, I'm just in solo write mode. So normally I'll I'll wake up, work out until around like 9:30 is when I get started writing. And then I'll write from maybe 9:30 or 10 to 12:30, eat lunch, take a little nap, and then I'll have another session from like 2 to 5:30 writing again. So I have these two kind of big chunks of writing time, and then in the evening I'll come home, I'll go on my walk, come home, eat dinner, and then that's when I'll do sort of like, I'll answer emails or research MFAs or just kind of do stuff before reading and going to bed. And so it's pretty much been my day every single day for the last 2 months. And it's been rad. I've gotten a bunch of, like I said, I've been able to work through, get almost my whole collection of short stories done. And it's interesting kind of trying on this identity as a writer because I've never really written like this before. And it's been fascinating learning, and it's cool going back now, seeing months ago how trash my stories were and the progress I've made. Like any sort of muscle, you get good just from doing it. I've just been reading a lot, writing a lot. It's been a lot of fun. But it's like now that I'm at the end of the like 8 to 10 weeks I've been out here, it's like I'm like ready for a bit of a change. Like my sleep is shitty. my sex drive is gone. Like my workouts are pretty rough just because I've also been cutting for most of this time too. So kind of at the end of my cut and it's starting to catch up and I'm like ready to like, I'm about to go on this vacation with my mom and I'm ready to kind of like, then I'm going to have a little adventure in Thailand, jump back into my work mode, jump back into the cut, but I'm ready for like a little bit of a break just because it's kind of been like, I've just been on the gas pretty hard and it'll be interesting to see what I can do with these stories. I have a bunch of ideas. I'm not going to talk about that just yet, but it's been rad kind of trying to become, construct a new version of what Kia is and thinking about what that future looks like. But we'll get to that down the line a little bit. So Malaysia. Quick update on Malaysia. What do I think? It's been rad this time around. I haven't been, this kind of ties into the next thing I want to talk about, is that it sounds weird, but I'm kind of done traveling, at least right now. Like I'm not getting as much. I think some people just really love to like go off and do things and explore. But I haven't been able to get the motivation to do those things. Maybe it's because I'm just used to my routine and that's what it is. Or maybe because I prefer to do those things with company, but that's just an excuse. But it's not like I've spent a lot of time like going to see the sights and stuff like that. So when my mom comes in next week, we'll go do all the fun kind of touristy things. But I'm not as like into right now the idea of like going someplace to like go just see it isn't as exciting to me as much as it is like trying to get my career going. And so I think that like the idea of like getting a book published or like getting asked to speak at a conference or like having something happen with the YouTube channel and getting like some sort of sponsorship. Like those things to me sound like really exciting. That just helps me kind of realize at this point in my life, I really want to get my career, I want to have more of a career because I am restarting. And so I feel like it kind of takes this initial effort that I'm not too phased about like missing out on seeing things as much right now. And so I really just want a base, again, that I can post up in the idea of like actually getting things rocking and rolling right now. To me feels, that's like what brings me the most joy, like working on these stories and working on this channel and just like building out this sort of, this next chapter for me. That's really what I get excited about, thinking about what to do, with the writing and all these sorts of things. Just again, I'm kind of back in this like back up against the wall. Whenever I'm in one of these places, I feel like I'm kind of at the brink of a breakthrough because it's uncomfortable. Like when I'm not making so much money anymore. And so those things kind of sound more titillating to me than just like going on a hike or something like that. But of course you gotta do those too. But being here in Malaysia has taught me like, right now you could plop me down anywhere and my routine will pretty much be the same just because I'm kind of 5 years in, I'm kind of out of travel mode. I wanna like fall back in love with it again. And I think in order to do that, I need to spend a little bit of time away from it. And so I really want a base. So I was talking before, it's like I was thinking about Portugal, sounds really rad. I've been looking into Porto. I'm about to go home, I'm about to go back to Thailand for a couple months. I'm sorry, I'm so sweaty. And then I'm going to back home, kick with mom and dad for a bit for my big bro's wedding, which is pretty crazy. And then figuring out things from there. I'm thinking maybe Colombia, maybe Mexico for a little bit, but just place that I can post up and base and work on these MFA applications and see what happens. So I think I took some notes. I think rolling with that is another piece of like wherever you go, there you are, which people say a lot, but that really resonates with me more now that I've been traveling for 5 years and I'm going to do like a video on that in a little bit, like my biggest takeaways from traveling for 5 years. But now it's less for me about trying to like see the world and knock off things on a bucket list and more like how do I love myself, how do I learn to have a little bit more self-worth, how do I explore myself and really develop some of these skills that I've been wanting to for some time, and also how do I have a relationship again, these things that to me are just, I'm putting, again, life is just priorities, it's time, and I'm just putting these up as a little bit higher priority in my life right now. And that there's this great quote by Naval Ravikant. I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, if you can't be happy with a cup of coffee, like you won't be happy with a yacht, And so I think there's a piece of me that's like ready to dive in and like do a lot of that work and exploration through my writing and the creativity and the poems, videos, just like really dive into the artistic version of myself now and build those skills and really kind of cultivate that sense of self. And again, with relationships and friendships and stuff like that, like I love these periods of intense work, but I want to have a base because I miss building that community. I miss having that community and going out to dinner with friends more often and things like that. So I'm looking forward to kind of this next chapter of maybe next time I do the nomad thing, I just have like 1 or 2, 3 places that I post up, or maybe it's just one place and I find a little Portuguese shorty and I get, a little European visa, can kick it over there long term, you know what I mean? If you know anybody, holler at me. I'm single, I'm getting shredded, I'm ready to find wifey, get somebody pregnant, let me know. Applications are open. So that's that. Another piece is the more connected I feel digitally, the more lonely I feel in real life. I don't mean that like to friends digitally. I mean that the more I'm on, this is not rocket science, but the more I'm on like social media, stuff like that, the more lonely, the less I feel good about myself. Like I might have a great day of writing, and there's this one YouTuber, his name's Nathaniel Drew. He's like 24. He's pretty much living my ideal life. He has like this, he's like millions of followers on YouTube, amazing apartment in France. He speaks like a zillion languages, a credible filmmaker, a decade younger than me, no big deal. And I might have like a great day of writing and then like his video pop up in like my suggestion, and he's so good. His videos are so good. And it'll like undo my entire day's like version of like self-worth, just in that small bit of comparison, just seeing how amazing he is. And I'm like, Kia, this is like self-inflicted. It's like if I don't see that, I go to bed feeling good. As soon as I see that, I don't. And it just really started to click for me that like, I come home from walking, I'll like eat dinner, and then I just like put my phone on airplane mode and I just like read and like do some shit on the internet, but I just kind of like, I stay out of those traps of like Instagram, YouTube suggested, all that sort of stuff. And it's done wonders for me just to kind of be in my own. When I measure up against me, I feel really good. But man, that comparison is a thief of joy thing. Shoo, that's a bitch. So that's been really interesting. It's like I just trying to like really post and ghost more and like be less on social and really. So if I'm sorry if I'm not responding to stuff, but just like create cool content, put it out there, and peace out. I've also been posting. It's been fascinating. I've been posting some nomad videos on Reddit, and because it's anonymous, they rip my ass to shreds. And I think it's good preparation for, obviously I want to have a big YouTube channel. I want to be somebody, that's it. That's it, yo. Even with I just want to be somebody. I'm going to be honest. And obviously I don't want to have to need that external validation, but there is a piece I think of wanting to have a successful career that does tie into that a little bit. And that's something fascinating about building multiple identities I'll talk about later. But there is a piece of like, I want to have an impact and I want to be present on the internet and like build some sort of something that affects people in a positive, whether it's comedy through the stories, whether it's some cool nonfiction book I'm able to write, have some ideas down the line. Like I want to make something that's like fucking cool. And I know that will come with hate. And so I think about this as kind of like training, that I'm just like training for whenever my shit gets popping, for like the hate that will come down the line. It's just like I'm getting my reps in of like getting internet hate anytime I post on Reddit. It's actually pretty funny. And you realize, at least you meaning me, you realize this, maybe you don't. For me, I realize like it's easy to brush that off because they don't actually know me. And so it was fascinating. I posted this video. I've been doing these like reviews of different nomad cities, kind of my quick and dirty take on it, my experience. And there was one that I had like a dating piece in there that was maybe 20 seconds. And this girl like tore me a new one. It was crazy. She like saw the whole video because that's our experience that we bring to content and to creativity, whatever it is. And just really understanding how, depending on what it is that you put out there, like you, meaning me, I have to put into it my intent and to be as aware and as thoughtful as I can to my intent. But once I put it out there, it's no longer mine, right? And it's like people will bring whatever they will to it. And I even have a friend who I've been sending some of my short stories, and she like hates them. She's like, they're terrible and self-centered and blah, blah, blah. But I'm also wondering, like, I take her feedback, but I'm also like, I just wonder if she's just maybe not the right audience. It's like some of my favorite authors people don't like. So it's always that balance between like what is good feedback and good critique, and then when is it just not the right audience? When doesn't it land? And I think this is just for myself developing that muscle of being able to like roll with the punches. I love this quote: "You're never as good as they say you are. You're never as bad as they say you are," and that's been really powerful. For your boy practicing getting hated on the internet. So here we are. what's on my mind? Okay, so next week I turn 32, which is crazy. When do we get so old, y'all? I don't know. But that is real, and it's all downhill from here. No, I'm just kidding. I actually feel really good about it. When I think about where I was a year ago, coming after, I've been writing about turning my Eat, Pray, Thug story, turning into how there was kind of this pivotal moment of failing in this famous DJ's house, mansion in Calabasas last May that completely, kind of detonated my dreams of music. And having to reconstruct myself over the last year of like how far I've come with the writing and how far, with the channel. I promised myself, I was like, I'm going to do a video every week for a year, and I think I'm at 10 months right now, so we're coming there. And learning how to shoot videos and photos, right? And learning about the YouTube hustle and like even writing. It's just like it's been difficult. I've been struggling a lot, but it's also, I like every day it's its own adventure. I'm like having a mental breakdown, and then I'm like feeling like super confident and I'm better, and then I'll like break through and have another breakdown. But breakdowns create breakthroughs. And so that's just been, I think, really telling. And looking back on it, I'm like, man, I'm proud of myself for the progress we made in the last year. And it's been incremental, but there are certain times when you have years that like you bump up a little bit. This is when I was like, because I just was, and I still am in a lot of ways, like so desperate for something to catch that I'm just like going all in on so many things. And it's been cool to kind of see the way that those have developed. And so I feel good about 32. I think it's gonna be like a transitionary year in a lot of ways. Like think about maybe moving to Europe, applying to MFAs, but those won't happen until I won't actually go until I'm 33. So it's gonna be this year of kind of like spending time with mom and dad, trying to figure out, really double down on the YouTube channel, see if there's something I can do there, kind of starting to get more creative with ways to make income. And so I think it's gonna be a good year. I don't think it's gonna be like my breakout year, but I think it'll be a good one of like continuing this sort of like big progress. And I'm hoping to like continue down this road of just experimenting and kind of throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. I'll have definitely a recap on what I've learned when I come back after this adventure with mom. What else has been on my mind? I've been just listening to tons of really fascinating podcasts. I don't know why I couldn't think of the word, around things like population collapse and depression and, finding meaning in life and happiness, all the things Kia is really into, evolutionary psychology stuff. I've talked about this before, but there's something clicked in my biology, in my biography, where I felt like I just was like, man, I want to have kids. Or at least I want to be a dad. I want to maybe experiment a little bit. I want to take that a little bit more seriously. And looking into population collapse, it was almost like this idea of almost like a moral imperative, as weird as that is to say, that I almost feel like I kind of owe it. And again, it could be a debt or something like that, but it just makes you want to consider it more seriously. And so that's been something that the more I've been toying with it, that's been yeah, that could be really cool. I think this is going to sound so terrible. This is not exactly a great reason to have a kid, but it's more than no reason to have a kid. Is I feel like it's almost one of those life experiences that again, my biological purpose on this planet is to procreate. That's what I was put here to do. And I think there is something inherently interesting just in seeing trying to have in a seeker, being the seeker that I am, being the adventure, the spiritual adventure that I am, wanting to have the widest range of experiences that I can in this life. And that I think is one of those pivotal experiences that comes with being human. And I think it could bring out this other side of me, this maybe more paternal side, a more serious side. And I think there's a lot of life lessons that I could learn from that. And I love to teach. That's why I even have this channel and doing I love to teach, and I think it would be cool to have a little person that I could, that could be my Padawan. I could be yo, dude, here's some game, take it or leave it. I just think it would be a cool dynamic. And knowing that in the back of my mind, it also kind of helps me really want to get my shit together too. But I said this last week too, I I've never been conventional. I've always been a little bit anti-conformist in that regard. And so even though this would be the perfect time to do it, I think I'm just gonna really focus on get my money right first, get my career a little bit more in tune, at least have some sort of more of a clear path, and make sure obviously that I keep that in the back of my mind as I continue, because I realize that in order to do that, you gotta have a partner that you love and care about, but taking pressure off of the partner piece, because the more that I, again, look into the psychology around relationships and these studies around happiness and relationships, there are so many people that we're compatible with. A lot of these great relationships are built, they aren't found. And so for myself, thinking less about like, I gotta find the one, it's more like, how do I just find like a rad, nice girl who likes me and we fight well together, and she likes Parmesan risotto, my body type, and we give it a shot. It's not like it has to be the one that I can just be like, I can just have a great relationship. And if she seems like she's got some qualities, it doesn't have to be like, right, your life partner is a huge deal, but I think I'm just almost making it too big of a deal. It's almost like too much pressure. I'm afraid to pull the trigger, rather than it just being like a rad, thick chick who's super sweet and we just like are in this thing to build together, that I'm like, that to me just feels a lot more doable. It's like, again, as a man who's obsessed with being the best version of himself, like I'm like, that's rad, because that takes the responsibility off of having to find something, and that puts the power back in our court, because it's like, that means it's not just out there for me to find. It's like, that means that's something that we can build, right? It gives me kind of the onus over my own destiny again, which I'm all about that shit. And so I'm like, that's really cool that it's more of like a thing that you kind of, put brick to brick and piece and work and build together. You just want to make sure that you find somebody that's kind of down to go on that journey with you. And so I think that's, for me, really exciting, is thinking about like, there's just less pressure, that it has to be something perfect from the jump. I don't have to find perfection. I can just like find good. That's just my approach. I'm like, I can just find good enough, and then we can build something really cool. And same kind of, I've been thinking about like, again, going when it comes to work, or this fascinating interview with this guy. He just came with this this book called The Good Enough Job. And I'm like, I wanted to go from someone who wanted to be like the best of the best. I've just had like a reverse 180 to be like, how can I just be good enough? And it's kind of funny. Giving up on your dreams will do that to you, people. But how can I just have the good enough job that enables me to do my art and do my thing and write, and rather than having to find Beyonce, it's like, how do I just find a girl that's good enough? And I think that's a concept I think is just a really beautiful one. It's like, there's so much happiness there between greatness and good enough, that it's like interesting how much you have to sacrifice often one for the other. So greatness is overrated, y'all. That's what it is. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, that's a little key update. I know this was kind of a long, crazy, rambly episode, but health is good. Completely lost my sex drive, but I'm getting a six-pack. Malaysia's been rad. Pumped out this collection of short stories. Gonna see where it goes. And turning 32. Gonna have a little adventure with mom, and then jump back in the saddle. Another 2 months. Grind some shit out and hopefully make some cool stuff for you guys. So hold that thought. I've got some ideas for this channel I've been working on. I've been dabbling with shorts a little bit, so maybe you've seen those. I've been thinking about getting like more, focusing on like working out more videos. Maybe it's just a volume thing. I'm really gonna try to double down on the channel this year, even if that means at 32 as a grown-ass man, I gotta go back home and live with mom and dad for a bit. I'm doing what I gotta do for evolutionary psychology, y'all. You already know what it is. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll check you on the next one. Peace.